An eccentric man invites 5 strangers to a haunted house and offers them $10,000 if they stay inside it all night and live to tell the tale. In the 1959 Vincent Price horror film, House on Haunted Hill. And that's the film we're hoping doesn't curse us for dusting it off. This week on Movie Bones.
Now, before the party begins, let's go over the details. The caretakers will leave at midnight, locking us in here until they come back in the morning. Once the door is locked, there's no way out. The windows have bars that a jail would be proud of, and the only door to the outside locks like a vault. There's no electricity, no phone, no one within miles, so no way to call for help.
Like a coffin.
So, if any of you decide not to stay for the party, you must let me know before midnight. Of course, if you leave, I shan't be able to pay you anything.
You ever have a deja vu, Ryan?
Oh, yeah. Plenty of times.
Plenty of times. I had one last night. Yeah. So, folks, usually I like to tell people a little bit if I've seen a movie before, and honest to goodness, I looked at the title and I thought, well, I haven't seen this before, and I know you haven't either, or at least I don't think so, right?
No, I have not seen this movie before.
And then I'm sitting down watching it, it's like, this seems awfully familiar. And then it's like, yeah, every scene that comes in, it's like, I have seen this before. But then again, it's like thinking, but I don't know what comes next. And this is like it was the weirdest sense of deja vu I think I've ever had. And it wasn't just me either. You know, like I say, my wife and I watched these together, and she said, although she was remembering things too, and she could even maybe remember more of what was coming, but she still was like transposing other B movies, like scenes from other B movies into this one as things she thought was coming. It was so interchangeable. And I think that's the best way you could look at all the elements in this movie is they're all just interchangeable elements. They're puzzle pieces that don't connect, are they?
Not really, no.
No, I mean, there's a semblance of some kind of a subplot
yeah,
but it never rises above a subplot. And in the meantime, you're faced with a whole bunch of, I guess, spooky innuendo, I guess is the best way I could put it. Not the sexual innuendo, but you know what I mean? Kind of just like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. We have a character who, one of his reasons for being at the house is like, I think his family used to own the house, something like that. I don't really quite remember, off the top of my head. But, he firmly believes that this house is haunted.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And spoiler alert.
There's nothing to spoil here, folks.
There is no indication that this house is haunted the whole entire time. Now, you could make an argument. Maybe you can make an argument. But there's really no indication that the house is actually haunted. And that guy, for the better part of the movie, he's just kind of there.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason for him being there is never made clear. Everybody else you have, I mean, in the beginning, first of all, that opening, I mean, I thought I was in for a much better ride based in the first couple minutes because of the floating head thing. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and if you guys have been following along with us and been watching the movie alongside of us, you know, too, exactly what I'm talking about. You start out with that guy. It's his head. I can't think of his name. I've seen him in other old black and white films. I can't think of his name, but except for the fact that, yeah, he's telling you about how haunted this place is. It's just a floating head. And it just...
This place.
This cursed. And then his head just shrinks into a dot. And then you have Vincent Price's head come out of the dot and start talking. And Vincent Price is just this guy who is rented a place that's haunted for a party, and it's like, and he's telling you about this. And the place itself, and then the next thing you see is the building that's in. It's like, this does not look like the typical haunted mansion that I'm kind of accustomed to seeing at all. It's not. I don't even think it's the one in the posters.
I don't think so either, now that you think about it. In fact, this place in the movie, my perception of it when we saw the outside, it seemed like they were trying to go for very like ancient type of not ancient house as in this house was built a long time ago. No, ancient house as in this thing looks like it could, like if you plopped it down on the outside, if you plopped it down in Egypt, it would just, it would go right along with the pyramids and
Yeah, I mean,
all that.
my mind went to places. I think there was some kind of intricate patterning on some of the outside walls that made my mind think of like, oh, it's like neoclassical Aztec or something, a very Aztecan kind of thing. And then they explain in that the house is 100 years old, and I'm like, where is it were making houses like this 100 years from when this movie was made?
Look, folks, I won't lie. I maybe was half watching it at times because it just kind of droned on for me. Was there ever a moment that they explained why there was a vat of acid in the cellar?
They did. They did.
Okay. I thought they did. I just couldn't remember exactly if they did or not.
Yes, and in fact,
that's so random.
As a matter of fact, I actually have the clip, and I might as well play it since we only have a handful of clips, but I will play the clip.
Experimenting with wines, but his wife didn't think it was any good.
So he filled the vat with acid and threw her in. She was supposed to stay down, but the bones came up.
Whenever my wife and I go out shopping for wine and I pick a wine that she doesn't like, that's my solution for it too, is I fill a vat of acid.
That's what you gotta do, man.
It's the thing you do. I thought everyone knew this. Going back to that guy for a minute, it's like he reminded me of every time you see, like, or if you ever go to like a low grade, like maybe a haunted house, someone who's done it in their basement or something, or maybe a church hell house or something like that. You know what I mean? You have the tour guide role that'll take you through it, and they'll say, in this place, and they'll give you the whole spiel, right? And it's very cheesy, and it's all very, okay, you're in for it when you're going to one of those places. And I know you guys at the Wesley Foundation, you had a haunted house every Halloween, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you did the tour guide thing. Did you do the tour guide thing?
I think they did so once.
So it is still a thing, but that was running through my mind the whole time. It's like, you made a movie where they actually did the kind of haunted house tour guide. The only role he serves is to try to set the atmosphere for the audience, but it's like he has no plot function. In fact, if you were that person, you would never be caught dead there. Who invited you say, yeah, I'll give you $10,000 or whatever if you come to this place for one night. And it's like, yeah, that sounds good for me. I mean, even though my siblings were killed here, and it's like, no, actually, I don't think there's any amount of money you could pay me for that. And it's never explained why he's there. And you just feel like it's like, of all the people in the world, why would he be there?
You are not wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot that the guy owned the house.
Yeah.
So it's like he's renting from the guy that he's owning, who owns the house. And you'd almost think that maybe the guy has more money than Vincent Price's character does.
For a house of that size, that's a pretty substantial place.
And also, if you own the house and everything as bad has happened to your house, why do you still own the house?
Wouldn't you have sold it,
Got rid of it. Torn it down.
Yeah, it's like salt the earth, call a priest,
I guess that might just be, thinking too much about a situation.
But because the only explanation that comes back to that kind of, is like, you wouldn't have this movie. And I'm thinking to myself, then we wouldn't have this movie. So,
and you know what? Sometimes, we don't need. Sometimes we just don't need this movie.
Just don't need the movie. It is a movie that it seems like it makes itself kind of dispensable. The only other thing that I could think of the whole time, besides that, kind of tour guide thing you see in cheap haunted houses, is the whole thing seemed like a Scooby Doo episode, and you have all the tropes in there. It's like you have, like, let's see, what did I have here? You've got spontaneously crashing household fixtures. You've got the door closing on its own multiple times. You've got it's ghosts, but it's not really. It's someone pretending to be a ghost. So yeah, that certainly brings to mind Scooby Doo. You've got a pipe organ that plays itself. I think that was actually in an episode I can think of Scooby Doo from Scooby Doo from one of the old series. And you've got the Scooby and Shaggy thing where Scooby and Shaggy, they'll see something scary and then they'll go get the others. And then when they come back, it's not there, and they do that twice in this movie.
Yeah, but what we don't have?
What don't we have?
We don't have them running through multiple doors.
No, but close. They had a hallway where people were going in and out, left and right, all the time, and I noticed that. And it's like, that's another Scooby Doo thing right there. So I'll give you a half credit. It's not quite there, but it is half there on that one.
Man.
They got almost all of the things I could think of from a Scooby Doo episode, except that Scooby Doo is actually more coherent than this. There's actually a plot.
Also in Scooby Doo, there isn't just some random scene where, and even though it does explain itself a little bit later on, but in Scooby Doo, there's not just some random scene where Vincent Price's character or a character in Scooby Doo tells all the party guests, like, all right, everyone, here's a gun.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, really, it's like, what in the world good do you think that could come of this? You're giving people loaded guns? I mean, and he says later on that hers was blanks, but were the other ones loaded with real live ammunition?
I did wonder that. And then also, real quick, before we continue on with this whole they all have guns thing, that poor woman.
I know. And how is she?
She was the victim of the whole entire movie.
And how did you make sure that, I mean, how does she fit into it? Because you're setting up all this scary stuff that she's going to see, but you don't know her. They're all strangers, including to you. How do you know she's going to that helps push forward the end goal, which has nothing to do with her? She's a blank slate. She doesn't know anything from anybody's angle. She's just a random guest.
She's our final girl trope. Although in the movie, only 2 people actually die. But she's our final girl trope. And her being our final girl trope. So it's like, she's that.
She's the one who lives.
She's the girl she's the one that lives. She's the one that screams her head off the whole entire time.
I'm thinking like Cabin in the Woods.
All of that stuff. Yeah. All that stuff that the horror movies do with female characters. But yeah, she doesn't have like a real part to play other than pretty girl who just gets the mess terrified of her. And so I was talking to my wife last night because she was half watching this with me as well. But I had paused the movie like right there at the end, right before there was, right there in their cellar. And, she had just shot his character. And the other people had come down to take care of his body.
Yeah.
I told my wife, I was like, so there's a good chance he's not dead, for starters. There's a good chance that he's actually orchestrated this whole entire thing to set them up, to take them out, and that the girl would be in on it. The only thing I was wrong about was the girl not being in on it. And because I was like, that makes it just a little bit better if she's been in on it the whole entire time. That this girl that's been terrified out of her poor mind knew everything that was happening already and that she was in on it.
Yeah.
It's just not super coherent. It sort of bounces all over the place, and just the plot, man.
And they leave things in like another area where Scooby-Doo gets it better than this movie does, besides having a coherent plot, is that they do bother to explain how the bad guy did all the tricks. There is one in particular. Do you know the one I'm thinking about? There is one trick in particular. How they did that without actually being a ghost.
Are you talking about when she just like floats across the floor?
That was neat, but that wasn't the thing. It's the one with the rope and hovering outside the window.
Oh yeah. Don't they don't explain that, do they?
No, they don't. In fact, they don't explain that at all.
I just kind of assumed it must have been some weird pulley system, because I think they want you to imply that.
Maybe, but it's off. It was so thin. I was like, I couldn't pick that up.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, just like, but with that, you also have when the girl is just terrified by the lady caretaker, and the woman just floats across the room.
Yeah, how does the floating thing? They don't.
Yeah, and then and the caretakers were still creepy, even if they were being paid to be creepy. It's like they never shut it off.
No, and it's like, and they agreed to go along with this too. It's like, what's in it for them that they get to go along with this plot, And why is
maybe $10,000 as well?
And don't you have to actually be able to predict because the whole reason why Vincent Price is doing this is because his wife and her secret lover, who is not actually so secret to him, obviously, is that they're plotting to kill Vincent Price and use this night to do it. Which again, it raises a whole bunch of questions, but at the same time, it's like, how do you turn it around the way he tried to turn it around so that all the things he's doing end up coming back on them? Because as far as I can see, there's a lot of human unpredictability that comes into play that would have had to get you to the end point. And it's like, but you're still, and you even had to rig up a pulley system to do this stupid skeleton thing in the basement, to pull the skeleton out of the vat of acid. It's like that all. So you knew that everyone would end up in the places they were, but why would the woman who's scared, why does she go down the basement at that moment? Did they explain that?
I don't think so. And I just realized something as you were talking.
What's that?
That guy owns the house.
Well, I mean, the guy the guy who's always explaining stuff, he owns the house, right? He's the one whose family got killed he owns the house.
He's the one that owns the house. He owns the house.
Right.
He's there for the party as well.
Yeah. He's there for the party.
That's one of the reasons why he's there. Like, when the girl gets freaked out by the caretakers, he should have just been like, oh, that's not really Ghost. That's like Bill and, Bill and Mary. And then you would think, okay, I understand. Like, you can logic some of this out. But still, if there's like some kind of like sinister plot going on, don't you think the caretakers like pull the guy aside and like, hey, by the way, just letting you know.
Yeah.
There's like a murder actually being planned here in your estate. And I know people get murdered here quite a bit, apparently. But if you want to stop a murder from happening...
Yes. You could actually do something, proactive instead of just telling spooky stories about the place. Like you're 10 years old, and you're trying to scare your kid brother and sister, which is what it comes off as. But it's like, it's like he should have had knowledge. They're his employees. They're his employees. If they're the caretakers, that means they're his employees. How does he not know? And the thing is, I'm already forgetting stuff about it again. That's the thing. And I am worried. I am genuinely worried that given enough time and Tubi's proclivity of having this always present in their list, it's going to suggest it to me again at some point. And I'm going to think, did I see that? And I'm going to be like, maybe not.
Speaking of Tubi and having this, funny that you should say
they don't just have it. They have it like in spades.
They have I watched the colored version. Did you watch the colored version or the black and white version?
The black and white version.
And then I don't know why this is. I did not watch it. I don't plan on I'm sure it's just but there's 3 versions that I know of. There's the colored version, there's the black and white version, and then there's a colored version that has 1 extra minute on it. I can't tell you why, but there's 1 extra minute.
Nice fact finding there, dude. It's like I am morbidly curious, but I know this movie is like a curse to me now. I always feel like it's like if I watch it, it's kind of like watching that movie The Ring? You watch the videotape and you're cursed. I feel like there's a curse to watching this movie, and it happens to be that you'll forget about it just in time, so you watch it again and you wonder if you've seen it or not.
It would be quite hilarious if there was just a 1 extra minute version of this movie. There's just one little detail.
Oh, that
they just didn't throw in.
The 1 minute that makes all the rest of it make sense.
Yeah.
Oh, good grief, gravy. It's like, all I can say is this is done. It's like, I don't think I'll ever be watching this again. I know I won't, unless I get tricked into doing it. But yeah, for me, it's bad dates. It's once and done, as long as I can be sure that it is just once. You know what I mean? Because I would have said that the first time I watched it, and I probably wouldn't have recommended it if I had remembered it. As of us doing it on Movie Bones, even if I'd remembered it. But now that I have watched it a second time, apparently, it's like, I'd say it's bad dates, but I can't be sure it's not actually belongs in a museum, secretly, unintentionally. So, but that's my official one, is bad dates. How about you, man?
I don't know. I think I'm going to don't look at it.
Okay.
I mean, it's just kind of boring. In some ways, it's funny. I'd probably follow somewhere between Don't Look at It and Bad Dates, especially if you're a Vincent Price fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not particularly a Vincent Price fan. No offense to him. I think he's a fine actor, but I've watched 2 Vincent Price movies now, and both of them left me going, eh.
Still waiting for the one that gives me that sense of the horror icon that is Vincent Price.
Yeah, and I'm sure it does exist. I do like his voice.
Oh yeah.
He's got a really neat voice, and I think he tries more than most of the people around him.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a convoluted movie. Convoluted as in it just wasn't the story just did not flow properly. If you were watching it maybe for the first time, as a horror movie, you might get something out of it. I could see what's scary about it back in, 1950s when it came out, or 1960s when it came out. Just because there are some kind of creepy elements to it. And by creepy elements, I mean, the hand. I really thought that one scene with the woman just kind of floating across, or what looked like she was floating across, I thought that was, sort of well done. However, I still thought it was funny, especially once you learn that that's just one of the caretakers.
Yeah, it's just like, what's she hovering on? And it's like, yeah, but and for me, it was like I would look at that and I was thinking like I wanted to laugh and say, well, that could be creepy, but I was laughing, probably mostly because it was too well lit.
It would be more creepy if like the woman had followed her around.
Yeah,
That would make it more creepy. But like, I'm gonna give them the props on like the makeup and everything, because like the props and the makeup in this movie, what I think got the intended effect, kind of creepy and also grotesque.
yeah.
That all being said, I don't know. A lot of this is just left to. It doesn't make me want to go. It doesn't make me sit there and go, you know what? I think I want to watch this movie
No,
again.
I could have done with more death, actually. I mean, this is one of those times where one of those horror movie tropes that they didn't do would have come in handy, which is the one where nobody survives,
Yeah, you could have. What you could have done, or what would have made this movie creepier, is if you had the party aspect, then you had the murder aspect, and then you had the actual ghost
Yes, and that too,
aspect, and then you find out that the ghost is what's actually killing people off one by one. Yeah, that would have been really interesting.
Yeah, that could have been, I mean, I've seen that done before. It's another version of the same trope, but at the same time, it can be done well. I've seen it done well. It's just a matter of execution at that point, but it can't pick a road, it just can't pick a
Yeah.
path. So, and actually, by the way, speaking of Vincent Price, is like one of my favorite bits of Vincent Price, even to this day, probably, is have you seen or heard the Michael Jackson Thriller track? I'm sure you have, right?
Yeah, he's on that, isn't he?
He does the lead-in and the exit narration.
See what I see. That man has, I know it was big back then, but if he was here today, or mid 2000s, just his voice and animation
Yes.
and narrating. I mean, I know he does that stuff already, but just what an amazing orator.
For me, his voice is the biggest part of his selling point. I mean, his presence in general. I mean, he did a lot of horror work, obviously, but he just doesn't look, if you look at his face, he doesn't strike you as like pure horror. Like you look at Boris Karloff and you can say that guy is a horror actor, but Vincent Price, for the iconic, status he has with horror movies, I think it is his voice really that sells it, and he did do a good job with that part. So anyway, at this time, we like to remind our listening audience out there that if you're having a good time with Ryan and me dusting off these old movies in search of celluloid treasure, do like, subscribe, comment, and of course, follow us on your podcast purveyor of choice. Tell us what you think we got wrong and clue us in on a few titles you'd like to see us do, as long as they're available for free, because this adventure comes with no strings attached. Guaranteed. And on that note, Ryan, we have a movie coming up next week, and why don't we tell the audience what that is?
Well, if I had to guess by the name of this movie, I would think it's a horror movie. I'm not sure. Have you ever seen it before?
I have not seen this one. I don't think.
Yeah. This is Tubi says this follows the exploits of Jenny Hager, a woman living in 1820s Maine who weaves a trail of intrigue and seduction to prey on men for their money. Starring the great Hedy Lamarr and George Sanders, directed by Edgar G. Ulmer, 1946's The Strange Woman.
I have never seen this before, so kind of curious about it. So we'll see what we think about it. And yeah, sure. I only got one more question for you, Ryan. You know what it is?
What's that?
You ever have a deja vu?
I think so. I feel like I've been asked this question before.
Maybe, possibly. All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Really think?
I don't think anything.